The door opened before I'd even put it in park. "Finally," he said, dropping into my passenger seat like he owned it, still talking to his phone. Sorry, bad connection. I'm in the car now. Just tell Marcus I'll." He looked up. Looked at me. Looked at the seat, the dashboard, the little pine tree air freshener that was definitely not his. "This isn't my Uber." "No," I said. "This is my Honda." He had his hand still on the door, half in, half out, phone pressed to his ear, and for a second neither of us moved, like we were both waiting to see who'd blink first. Rain needled the windshield. Somewhere behind him, a black sedan idled at the curb with its hazards on, his ride, presumably, waiting for a passenger who was never coming. "I am so sorry," he said. And he did look it, cheeks going red under the streetlight. "Gray Honda, I saw the..." He gestured helplessly at the roof. "There's a gray Honda 3 cars back. I watched you walk past it." He winced. Into the phone he said, "I'll call you back," and hung up without waiting for an answer. "Bold way to meet a guy," I said. Because it was that or sit in silence while a stranger decided whether to get out of my car, and something about the rain and the hour made me reckless. Usually people buy a girl a drink first. He laughed. A real laugh. Surprised out of him, and reached for the door handle like he was finally going to leave. Then his phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, and something in his face changed so fast I almost missed it, like a light going out behind a window 3 streets away. There and then not there. "Actually," he said slowly, still looking at the screen, "would you mind, could you just drive? Anywhere, just drive." I should have said no. I want that on the record, for whatever it's worth, for whoever's asking. I should have said get out of my car and locked the doors and driven straight to the 24-hour diner on 5th, where there were always people, always light. Instead, I pulled away from the curb. "I'm Theo," he said, like that fixed anything. "You're in my car," I said. "That doesn't mean I need your name." Fair. He was still looking at his phone, thumb hovering over it like it might bite him. "But I'd like you to have it. In case," he stopped himself. "In case what?" "Nothing. Left at the light if you don't mind. Away from Grant." I looked at him properly for the first time. Really looked. The way you look at someone once the joke's over and you realize you might actually be in something. Late 20s. Work bag still on his shoulder. A wedding band tan line on a finger with no ring. Whatever he did, it kept him up late enough to still be catching Ubers at 11:40 on a Tuesday. "Whose car was following yours?" I asked. "Before you got in mine." He went very still. "I didn't say anyone was following me. You didn't have to." The wipers went back and forth twice before he answered. "My name is actually Theo Marchetti. Does that mean anything to you?" It didn't. And I told him so, and something in his shoulders came down half an inch. Relief, maybe. Or just tiredness pretending to be relief. "Good," he said. "Keep it that way, as long as you can." Here's what I knew by the time we'd crossed under the overpass on Grant, going the long way because he asked me to. Theo did compliance work for a shipping logistics firm called Halvorson Freight. He'd found something in the manifests 3 weeks ago that didn't match the customs filings. He'd told exactly one person at the company, his supervisor. A woman named Priya. 2 days later, Priya stopped answering calls, and the story going around the office was that she'd taken a sudden leave to care for a sick relative. Nobody's seen her, he said. Not her sister, not her building super, apparently, when a mutual friend went and knocked. "You think something happened to her?" "I think," he said carefully, like each word cost him something, "that I sent her the file on a Thursday. And by Monday she was gone. And by Tuesday there was a man outside my building who wasn't there before. And tonight there was a black sedan that followed my Uber for 6 blocks before I got out of it 3 cars early and just walked and got in the wrong gray Honda. That's not a coincidence you're describing. No, he agreed. It really isn't. My phone buzzed in the cup holder, a text from my roommate asking if I was still picking up wine for Friday, and Theo flinched so hard at the sound that I nearly swerved. "Sorry," he said, breathing again. "Sorry, I'm not usually. I don't do this. Get into strangers' cars. Accuse rideshares of espionage. You haven't accused anyone of espionage. You've told me your coworker vanished, and a car followed you home. Feels like the same thing at midnight." I almost laughed, except his hand was shaking slightly where it rested on his knee, and there wasn't anything funny underneath that. We ended up at the diner on 5th after all. My idea, not his. Because if he was going to unravel a corporate conspiracy in my passenger seat, I wanted witnesses and a waitress named Deb who called everyone Hon. Under the fluorescent lights, he looked worse and more real at the same time, like the dark had been doing him a favor. He put his phone face down on the table like it might overhear us. "Show me," I said. "Whatever you found. If you're going to ruin my Tuesday, I want to know why." He hesitated, and I watched him decide something. Watched a man who'd spent 3 weeks being careful choose, in a diner booth, to stop being careful with exactly one person. He turned the phone over and slid it across the table. It was a spreadsheet. Rows of shipping containers, dates, ports of origin. Most of it meant nothing to me. But he'd highlighted a column, declared weights against actual weights on the same containers, logged twice, 6 weeks apart. And the numbers didn't just differ. They differed by exactly the same amount, every time, like a hand had reached in and skimmed the same fixed percentage off the top of every single shipment for months. "That's not a mistake," I said. "A mistake doesn't repeat." That's what I told Priya. His voice caught on her name. Word for word almost, she said give her a day to look into it before we went to anyone. That was 3 weeks ago. "And the man outside your building? Parks across the street. Doesn't do anything. Just parks." He rubbed his face with both hands. "I know how it sounds. It sounds like you should call the police." "And say what? A man is parked on a public street and my coworker took family leave? I have a spreadsheet with a pattern in it, not a crime." He looked up at me, and for the first time since he'd fallen into my passenger seat, he looked less scared than certain. "I need someone to have this file who isn't me. If something happens, I need it to already be somewhere else. So, email it to yourself, your lawyer." "Anyone, I did email it to myself. 3 different accounts, 40 minutes ago." He almost smiled. "I need it to be somewhere they wouldn't think to look. A stranger's phone from a car they don't know I got into, that they can't trace back to me because there's no record of us ever meeting." I understood then, with a small cold drop in my stomach, exactly what had happened 40 minutes ago at the curb. "You didn't get into the wrong car by accident." He didn't answer right away. Deb refilled our coffees and left, and the diner hummed around us, and Theo Marchetti looked at me like he was about to spend something he couldn't get back. "I saw the sedan 3 cars behind mine for 2 blocks, he said quietly. "I saw a Honda idling with its hazards off, a woman inside, obviously not my ride. I did the math in about 4 seconds. Wrong car, no reservation, no name, no way for anyone watching to have flagged you in advance. I picked you because you were the safest stranger on the street. That's not an apology." "No," he agreed. "It's a confession. I'm sorry it's the one I've got. I should have been angrier. I've turned it over since. Why the anger didn't come. Why instead there was something almost like being chosen. being picked out of a wet street by a man doing math under pressure and landing, for reasons that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with me, on my door handle instead of any other. It isn't romantic, what he did, but it also wasn't nothing to be the safe thing a person reaches for. Send it to my email, I said, not my phone. My email, from your email, right now with a timestamp, and then you're telling me everything else you know, and then we're deciding together what happens next. Not you deciding and using me as a Dropbox. Something in his face came apart with relief. Okay, and Theo? Yeah, bold way to meet a guy is one thing. Bold way to make a girl an accessory to federal fraud is a whole different pickup line. Work on it. He laughed, the same surprised laugh from the car, like it kept catching him off guard that he still could. And for a second, under Deb's fluorescent lights, with a spreadsheet full of missing weight sitting between 2 coffee cups, it almost felt like a first date. The worst first date. The one I'd tell this story about for years. Priya called him 4 days later from a number he didn't recognize, alive, furious, and already talking to a federal auditor. The man outside his building stopped coming around the week after that. Not because the story ended, but because it stopped being containable. And stories that stop being containable stop needing men parked outside buildings. Theo still doesn't know entirely why I stayed in the diner booth instead of driving away the second I understood what he'd done. Neither, some nights, do I. But I know I still have his number, and he still has mine, and neither of us has explained to the other why we kept talking after the file was safe and the danger, mostly, had passed. Bold way to meet a guy, I told him in a car, in the rain, before I knew any of it. Turned out to be true for reasons neither of us saw coming.